Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Morning. Welcome to a Monday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's Monday. It means we got JC. We'll also have Edgar Thompson from the Orlando Sentinel. Edgar was in Atlanta all week. He was on the Fine Bomb show. We're going to get his thoughts on the preseason picks came out from the media and also the all SEC teams, get his thoughts. Let's welcome JC into the Titan MR hotline. Good morning, JC. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you? Yep, fine. Last week in July, thankfully, and we're almost in the month of August, and that's, of course, when things really start cranking up on the field for these teams and practices and training camps and so forth. So, yeah, doing well. Hoping for a dry week, QB, man. I've had it with the rain. I mean, the golf course looks like a but the guy's done a good job keeping it up. I don't know. I mean, you playing golf, doing anything fun outside?
Nothing fun right now. It's play a little bit this week and next week, but it's game time. I mean, we're less than 40 days away, right?
I know. Yeah.
Kickoff.
It's right. I got myself fired up by watching 2nd and 26 on a continuous loop for about 15 minutes this morning when I woke up.
You watched what?
2nd and 26. I watched that I watched that for about 15 minutes on a nonstop loop as I was.
What is it?
That was when Tua dropped back and saw Devontae Smith down the sideline, and Georgia just watched it go over their head, and everybody went bananas. So that got my heart beating a little bit, and I felt good about it. It made me happy. So why wouldn't I do that? And on this little Twitter thing, it's got the nonstop loop, so I didn't have to keep hitting play. It just kept playing. So that was fun to watch. Enjoyed that. I think, Georgia, as the defending national champions, will get to learn now what it's like to have to defend a championship. So that could be a little bit of a different feel for them, but they're still going to be very, very, very good. And, of course, we've got a lot of I think the conference this year, QB, I just reading Phil Steele over the weekend and looking at some of the things he had to say about, and some of the previews and some of the players that are coming back on these teams. The league is set up to be really, really hyper competitive, and there's probably more parity than you think in the league this year.
Outside of two teams, probably, yes.
Yeah, outside of two. I mean, it's easy to just say those two at the top of each division, but inside, the rest. And listen, those two teams still got to go play. I mean, Alabama plays two teams coming off 5 weeks on the road this year. They have to play.
Look, I hear that crap every year. It doesn't matter.
It matters.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it does.
Like I told you, I've had people tell me that this is probably could be Saban's best team he's had since he's been there.
I know.
We shall see. Did you see where Doring predicted Kentucky to beat Georgia in Lexington this year?
No, I didn't see that. I'm somewhat interested. What did he say? What was his biggest reason? Just because he loves Kentucky?
Well, he loves Kentucky every year. He does. Every year he picks Kentucky to win like the East.
Yeah.
And I guess if he keeps picking them, eventually they're going to win. I do not see them. Look, they play in Lexington. We know that it'll probably be a night game. Who knows? It could be the CBS game by then. But it's not until November. But he did pick Kentucky to beat Georgia.
Okay.
I don't know, because now if Kentucky was playing Georgia early in the year, because they are replacing a lot of good players, I could see it. I just don't see it happening. Speaking of something that I meant to bring up last week, Peter Burns texted this. He said, another general reminder that when Saban says, quote, is this what we want college football to become? It's not a question, but rather a warning. Referring to Alabama had 8 players placed on the preseason All-SEC first team, 8. 5 of them are transfers.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, yeah, it is crazy. And, I was talking to a person across the street whose son is dating the daughter of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers coach, and he plays hockey. And so they're very sports oriented, and they're still in if you transfer in college up in Canada, you have to sit out 12 months. And I said, well, those days are long gone here in American college football, and you're seeing just so much transitional activity that it's almost become, well, I want to play for that team and that coach, and regardless of who I signed for a year and a half ago, I'm going to go do it. And I don't know what the rulers of college football are going to do about this, but I like the transfer portal. I think it gives everybody a little bit more flexibility. I think it's okay. I mean, it's all about competing anyway. I mean, you're competing for players when you recruit them. You're competing for players when you play. So it's a talent. What it is, college football is just nothing more than a talent acquisition business. That's what it is.
I thought it was interesting though that 8 of their first team picks 5 of them were transfers.
Yeah, well,
which is interesting. Dan says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law, Dorian gives Kentucky love because that was his coming out game back in the day.
That was. I mean, I know everybody who's a Florida fan or follows Florida knows exactly where they were the moment that happened. They know exactly where they were. It was kind of like something you'll never forget. And certainly Chris became a household name in Gator country after that play. I mean, because they were beat. That game was over. Kentucky had them beat. And same with Danny Werfel. I think that was his first big play. So
yeah, because they've thrown 7 interceptions in that game.
Yeah, it's awful.
We're going to talk more with Edgar Thompson, get his thoughts on this. But the media picked Florida to finish 4th in the SECs. Yeah. Every time I look at that, I'm not surprised, but it's hard to swallow.
Well, it's the emergence of Kentucky and Tennessee, QB. I mean, everybody thinks that now these schools are ready to break out, I guess, whatever. And Kentucky did have a great year last year, all things considered, for Kentucky. Tennessee was better. I wouldn't call it a great team or a great year by any stretch. But they lost at home to Ole Miss, all right? So, no shame on that. Mississippi was the second best team in the SEC West last year. They were the second best team. But I think it's because of Tennessee and Kentucky, QB, clearly.
Well, obviously. So on the preseason picks, they had one player on a preseason first team, all SEC, and he's a transfer.
Yeah.
Cyrus Torrance.
Yeah.
Second team was Brenton Cox. Third team, Gervon Dexter, Ventrell Miller, and Trey Dean.
Yeah.
That's hard to believe, but it is what it is. It's like I told you, people don't want to listen. The roster ain't great.
Well, and so what people like to try to figure out is why did that happen? And you can blame, I guess the only person you can blame is the way Dan Mullen recruited. But remember, Dan Mullen had this team winning multiple games. They finished highly, except for
those weren't his players. That's what people.
But those weren't his players, right? That's what I was going with. So that's why he's going to be working in television for the next couple of years.
Where's he going to be working? Do you know?
I don't know. I would have thought we'd have heard something, and maybe he's going to take a gap year, like these kids do after they graduate from college.
Pretty much the only place for him to go would be in the CBS studio. But, you got Neuheisel. But they usually have a coach that will come in every now and then because they hired Takeo Spikes at the SEC Network to take Gene Chiswick's place. So
they did. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm surprised a little bit because I would have thought he would have been lined up for that. That would have been easy for him.
John says, and this points out why the media probably has the Gators where they are, and I think Gator fans, myself included, forget about this. I know we weren't very good, but you know what our record was in the SEC last year, JC?
I'm going to say it was 4-4,
2-6,
2-6. Why did I think 4-4? Shit. I can't believe why would I have thought they won 4 games in the conference? Yeah, 2-6 ain't going to get it, brother. It's just not going to get it. And look, we all know about last year. Last year was just miserable. But the good thing is that Anthony Richardson knows he's the starting guy. This is the whole season. It just feels like to me, and I know how much football is a team sport and how linebackers need linemen, like you say, and running backs need offensive linemen. Like it's all about Anthony Richardson this year, man. I mean, he's got to be the guy that carries that mail and be Florida's mailman like Georgia has their mailman. And so everybody needs a mailman, QB. And Anthony's got to be the mailman.
Yeah. Jay says on the Titanmar text line, if Mullen would have fired Grantham at the end of the 20 season, he might still have his job.
I don't think that's look, they didn't score. They didn't score.
Yeah, the problem is I know a lot of people were on Todd Grantham, and I understand it, but I've been saying for example, if people will go back, we got all these people out here that think, we should have played a different scheme, whatever. It's the Monday morning quarterback. I get it. Mm-hmm. But when your players aren't very good and then they don't try and they don't give effort, you got a bad recipe for playing defense. And if you go back last year and watch the LSU game, I have never seen such poor effort from players at any level of athletics.
On both sides of the ball.
Right? Well, offensively, they did okay here and there. Defensively, it was the worst effort I have ever seen at any level of athletics.
It was horrifying.
Bottom line is, I hear what Jay's saying because everybody wants to point to the coordinator. I get it. He's still a very good football coach. We didn't have very good players. And everybody wants to go back. I read something the other day, or it was a tweet or something. Somebody talked about, no, I think it was Dooley. Dooley does this 12. He lists 12 things. He said something about Florida has to play much better in the secondary this year. Secondary ain't been the problem. When people don't realize that we've had really good defensive backs, you're going to get beat. That's part of the game. But the problem with Florida's defense has been front seven. Front seven. Can't stop the run and can't pressure the quarterback. That's right. Simple.
No, secondary is secondary, right? It's not primary. Primary is the front seven in my mind. And teams that win championships have devastating front sevens. And I thought one of the best secondaries I saw in my life was Major Wright, Joe Hayden, and those guys Florida had, with Urban. Those were some of the best guys in the backfield I've ever seen play for Florida or football. But those guys, they're so long gone, and nothing's been comparable to that.
But JC, we had a first-round pick this year. They had a first-round, second, third-round pick the previous year. They've had really good secondary players. That has not been the problem.
I'm on your side on that argument if you want to make it. And certainly, look, LSU didn't stop Florida either. That's what I was meant to say. I didn't mean Florida wasn't good offensively against LSU. They just couldn't. LSU couldn't stop Florida much either, especially when Richardson came into the game. I think you're right. I think it's this Gervon. Okay, Gervon Dexter. We've heard about what a big, highly touted player he was coming out of high school. He's been picked now third team preseason, all SEC. I have not heard his name on somebody's back in a very long time.
Yeah, well, like I told you, the defensive front seven is the key for this year.
Well, isn't that where he plays? Isn't that where he plays?
Yeah. Well, I've been saying it for 2 years now. Davis says that's right on AR, except no one to throw to or a line to give time. Oh, yeah, he has to read the defense too. Go Gators. I think the offensive line is going to be the strength of this team, quite honestly. Scott says, Shane, do you see AR's comments when asked about the difference between Mullen and Napier? AR said Napier was making it much simpler for him, just like you said you called it. Look, a coach's job is to take – that's why I have so much respect, maybe not for today's high school coach. I still do. But back in the day when kids couldn't go where they wanted to go, you had to go where whatever school you were zoned, you had to go to. Mm-hmm. High school coaches can coach ball because they may have a guy like me who's a drop back passer that they have to adjust their system to, or they may have a guy like JC who can't throw a lick, so he turn around and they have to run the wishbone. What Billy Napier – Anthony is extremely talented, but he can only do so much. Like I told you, they're going to do what you saw in the spring game, folks. We're going to be an inside zone team. We're going to RPO it. We're going to zone read it, and we're going to throw it deep. That's simple. There's hardly any thinking at all in what I just said, and that's what you're going to see.
Well, you coach to the strength of the players you have, dude, and you try to make them better. And not everybody's the same. I mean, that's what you got to do, right? As a coach, you got to coach to whatever your players do well at, and play to their strengths. Do what they can do make it better for him, make it easier. We talked about that last week about how Anthony is going to not have, all these progressions and sit back there and do that. That's not what he's going to do. He's going to make it very simple.
Wes,
this guy no, go. And
Wes says, not sure how good or bad we are, wide receivers are. We had guys wide open all year and couldn't hit them. I mean, we missed some guys, but we didn't have dudes running wide open. I set up in a very good view in the press box. And, Emory wasn't great, but we didn't have guys running wide open. What people don't understand is when they sit in the stands and they see a guy on the other side of the field running wide open, he's probably not even in the read or whatever. So anyway, are you in the market to buy or sell your home, JC? Doreen Weaver,
No,
a realtor,
not right
banker in Paris will provide you with fast, friendly, and reliable service. Call her today at 352-562-1411 to help your dreams come true. JC on the Titan our hotline. Jay says, you look like a fullback, JC.
Oh, well, I'm a full grown man. Yeah, sure.
Hang on a second. Let me get to this other text on the Titan More text line from Frank.
Yeah.
He says, Shane, what do you think of Mike Leach's offense? I heard someone say, I can't remember who it was, when he came to the SEC, that his offense was easy to defend, but it seems like he's had a lot of success last year. I love his offense. He just doesn't run it enough. They go through spurts where they'll get shut down because he gets stubborn. But what I love about his offense is they do what Coach Spurrier used to do. Hours and hours of throwing routes on air. That's how you get good at throwing and catching the football. But he's a heck of a coach. Well, he only has a handful of plays. You're talking about simple. Yeah. His system is so simple and keeps it simple. And he's got a really good trigger man as well.
Well, but with Will Rogers, I think now that he's only because of that year that everybody kept a year, eligibility, COVID year, I guess he's only a sophomore. He could conceivably play 3 more years if he wanted to at Mississippi State with this system. And the better, or I should say, the longer he's doing it, the better it's going to get for him. Sometimes it may take a year for any quarterback to kind of really I guess what I'm trying to say is, Mike Leach's best offenses come usually in about the second or third year that he's got the same quarterback, meaning execution-wise. And Mississippi State wasn't good 2 years ago on offense. Last year, they were much better, and I would think this year they're going to be even better. And I looked at their roster QB. They're all seniors and juniors on that team. I mean, everybody is an older player, more experienced. That is a sleeper in the West because even though their schedule is extremely difficult, that dog barking right there is a sign that you better keep Mississippi State on your radar screen. But again, tough schedule. I saw our Arkansas schedule is so damn hard. I think they've got the second hardest schedule. It's
the hardest. It's the hardest.
It's crazy. So anyway, obviously somebody's got to play Georgia, right? Somebody from the West has got to pull Georgia. Mississippi State had the pleasure of doing that, but at least they get to play them in Starkville. What if that matters? It might, man. I've seen some people in their picks have Mississippi State second or third in the West. I've seen them have them dead last. Same way with Ole Miss. That whole West is going to be a crapshoot. You know who I think is going to surprise some people this year, JC? Yeah, in the West. Yeah, I think you're going to say. I don't know why, but I think Auburn's going to. I think Auburn's going to have a decent year. Now, I would say they're going to be about 4th or 5th. I think Texas A&M will be better than Auburn. I think, obviously, Alabama will be better than Auburn. I think Arkansas will be better than Auburn. And I think one of the two or both Mississippi's could be as good as Auburn. I just think there's still a lot of chaos up there. Now, they got rid of Nix, but who's going to be their quarterback? Is it going to be –
they had – what's his name? The transfer – was it TJ Finley was their quarterback at the end of the year, the transfer?
He was at the end of the year. Yeah. At the end
so I don't know who their quarterback's going to be. But I still think Brian Harson's a pretty good coach. I think he'll have them – they had a lot of turmoil up there, but I think I'm not saying they're going to win the West. I think they're going to be better than they were last year.
Yeah. Well,
just remember, if Tank Bigsby doesn't get pushed out of bounds, y'all lose that game.
No doubt. I mean, that
football team.
I saw it. It was god awful to watch. And who would have thought a week later they'd get 42 on Georgia? I mean, it doesn't make any sense, does it? So
no. Chris says on Facebook Live, Emory missed 2 TD passes. Emory missed a bunch, but all quarterbacks missed TD passes.
You're still on Emory Jones, man.
Everybody misses throws.
Isn't he at Arizona State or somewhere? Where the hell did he go?
Yeah, he's at Arizona State. All right, let's switch gears for a second. We got to talk PGA golf. Our man Scott Piercy had a 5-shot lead with, I think, 9 holes to play.
Oh my God!
And good gracious, he hit it all over the ballpark. And
just put it
give
in
Tony
the fairway.
Finau credit.
Put it in the fairway. Tony was shocked. He shot a 67, and this poor guy Piercy shot a 76 or something. 9-stroke differential. When you're in the side of a bunker, it's a pretty good bet you're not going to make par out of a fairway bunker where you're embedded in the side. So just play for bogey, dude. And so he made 3 mistakes on one hole that cost him the tournament and cost him a lot of money too. And it's too bad. He duffed it in the bunker. He couldn't get it out. Just pop it out into the fairway and play for bogey. You might make a long poly par. But, instead he tries to hit it over the water, out of the bunker, which I guess you could have done if you had a good lie, but he hit it fat, goes in the water, makes triple bogey, dude. And then he was toast. His brain was just absolutely fried after that. And I'm happy for Tony Finau, man. I mean, this guy's very talented, extreme talent. He's won 3 times now on the tour. And, we had rumors that maybe he would be going to the club, the Arab club, but I don't know about that.
I think what's going to happen, and I think Ricky Fowler's part of it. Ricky Fowler does all those Rocket Mortgage commercials.
Yeah.
And you got the Rocket Mortgage tournament coming up in Michigan this weekend. I think these dudes are waiting till the Tour Championship is over, and they're all going to bail. I really do.
Jeez.
I did see. I don't know if it's a good sign. I don't think it matters. But Billy Horschel came out and was very negative towards the Tour 54 guys. Yeah. Well, Billy Horschel was they have a big fishing tournament there in Jacksonville, the Kingfish tournament. I don't know exactly what the name is. But you know who his captain was?
Who?
Or on his boat?
No.
Cam Smith. Cam Smith came out on his boat. And I think Billy caught the biggest kingfish or something. But anyway, I still think Cam Smith is going to I think he's going to Tour 54 once the Tour Championship is over. I really do. And it makes me sick.
You don't think he'll be back to defend his TPC championship then?
No, but because I keep reading where he is exempt till 2027 in all majors. So until the majors talk about it, these guys are going to be gone.
I think that's the key, isn't it? I mean, it's about the majors for them, and but there's only 4 of them. TPC, some say, is the 5th major, but I mean, supposedly has the best field in golf, and he won't be able to play in that if he joins the Tour 54, regardless. So you're right. The majors are going to have to force this issue, and the Masters is an invitational. We know that. The U.S. Open's a qualifier with exemptions, and then the PGA and the British. Look, the R&A doesn't like the Tour 54 either, QB. I mean, they're not fans.
No. So it's we got a text here from Jay. He says, "Did JC just say poly par? Did you say poly par on here?"
I did say poly par. I mean, all Piercy had to do was get it in the fairway, hit it to 25 feet.
Well, it would have been a sandy poly par.
It would have been. Jeez, too trash for Scott. Yeah, Scott.
I missed that part. Jay was listening. I missed that.
Man, well, you must listen better. No, I just think that, you can't compound one mistake with another, which is what we all do. But that's not what pros should do, especially if they're winning a tournament. Bogey does not lose you the tournament. Triple bogey loses you the tournament. And he'll learn.
Tony says here on Facebook Live, he's correct as well. He says, I believe Cam Smith is going when I see it. He has to be after the President's Cup, I would think. When is the President's Cup? It's during football season. They're in Charlotte.
It's usually in the November, December timeframe.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I love Cam Smith. I think people in Jacksonville have taken him under their wings. He lives there in Ponte Vedra.
He will not be able to play in that tournament if he goes to the club.
Well, we know that.
Yeah, so I mean, if that matters to him, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Listen, endorsements will get you to $100 million if you need $100 million. Okay, if you got to have $100 million, by God, you can get it on the PGA Tour. That's where most of them have gotten it, and who have gotten it. So, he's good enough to get to that status. I mean, he's one of the best in the world. So some would say right now with the short game, he is the best in the world. So
Lauren says everybody's selling out. Their money's got them. There's no doubt. The President's Cup, September 23rd to the 25th. There at
September.
Well Hollow. Yeah.
Hollow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I think he's going to play. He's probably going to play. A lot of these guys are going to play in the Tour Championship. The FedEx Cup, all that crap.
Yeah.
Do the President's Cup, and then they're all going to bail, I bet. And it just makes me, like I told you, JC, I don't know if I brought this up with you or someone else. It may be a bad analogy.
What's that?
Where I came about was, it would be like taking Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Pat Mahomes, where you pay them $100 million to go play in a flag football league.
Yeah, you did say that.
Okay.
You said that last week.
That's what it is to me.
Yeah, well, we'll just have to see what the roster looks like after this season is over. But I do hear you. I think, though, we'll be so deep in football by then that you may not care as much until next year. But, hey, the XFL announced its 8 cities. Yep. New York and L.A. New York and L.A. are not included. You have Bobby Stoops coaching in Arlington. And you have Terrell Buckley, your old teammate, coaching in Orlando. Yep. So I found that to be somewhat interesting. I didn't watch much or if any of the USFL QB, but they did complete the season. The Birmingham team won that championship, if you will. And I think they could give themselves a strong B grade or B minus type of grade for the way the season went. It didn't appear to be that bad. So
no, what the difference is going to be between the USFL and the XFL, they housed everybody and practiced and played all the games in Birmingham except for the playoffs. They went up to the Canton, Ohio Stadium. Mm-hmm. The XFL, everybody's going to be based in Arlington, Texas, but then you will fly to your city and play your games.
Wow. Mm. So everybody's going to live in Texas. And then when they play Seattle, when Seattle plays San Antonio.
So let's say Seattle plays Orlando. Okay. Yeah. It's a home game for Seattle. Both teams are going to fly to Seattle and play the game and then fly back. If the game was in Orlando, the two teams fly to Orlando and play each other and then fly back. So we'll see how it works. But The Rock is the big guy in that. They have some ties to the NFL. They got a bunch of old NFL guys as the head coach.
Rod Woodson and Hines Ward, dude, 2 Hall of Famers. 2 Hall of Famers. And Anthony Beck was a great player in the NFL as well. Jim Haslett was a former coach in that league for years and years and years. And he's coaching in Seattle, the head coach for that team. I don't know. It could be interesting. We'll see. But again, I don't think with this golf thing, QB, you're going to be that worked up about it, especially if good things are happening on the football field when the time comes.
All right, John says here, QB, the problem with your analogy with the NFL QBs is they are already getting guaranteed money. I do not understand your point there. I do understand. No, the golfers are getting guaranteed money to go play in a 54-hole charity event. So if you had a flag football team where you guaranteed the money for the NFL guys to go, NFL, you get a small amount of your salary guaranteed, just certain people. It's no different than golfers. Golfers already have guaranteed money too through sponsorships.
Yeah.
So it's almost the exact analogy to a point.
Well,
am I missing something, Jason?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you are. I just there's. Well, to me, I still think it's going to be somewhat of a fact. If the PGA Tour just does some things that might, for whatever reason, dissuade somebody from leaving it, I don't know what that would be necessarily. Maybe make it more lucrative to win. I don't know. The
bottom line is these guys want the easy way out, take all the money, and then just show up and play in the majors because that's what it all matters.
Jimmy, it's very easy to put an AT&T logo on your bag, call yourself, sponsored by Under Armour and AT&T like George Speed, can make $40 million. Okay, that's very easy. Easily. So you again, it goes back to my point. $100 billion can easily be achieved if you're successful on the best tour on earth. Yeah. And I don't know why anybody would want to be a household name other than in the major venues of this country in North America. That's where the biggest market is, and this is still going to be where the best players play QB. I'm not as draconian as you might be with all the fallout of the players that might go over there. That's just rumor. We'll see.
Yeah, well, they talk about the PGA Tour players aren't happy with the PGA Tour, where they have the best benefit package of any professional sports league.
Yeah.
But, them wanting compensation from videos and all this other garbage is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, because no other sport is like that. JC, we'll talk about this. I mean, we're going to talk about this forever, it seems like.
Sure.
We got to take a timeout because I got to get Edgar Thompson on.
Okay.
We're going to talk SEC Media Days, get his thoughts on what's going on in the Southeastern Conference. We'll talk to you later on in the week, my man.
Okay, brother. See you then.
That's JC.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogra State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration points where the Gators go to celebrate, with premium brands like Escape Apology, Sushi Hana, Regal Cinemas, Kilwins, Le Macaron, Prime and Pearl, and the HBC's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, where every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 2:30, you can get the hottest brunch in town. We'll see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. Going to head to the Titan MR hotline. We're joined by a good friend of the program, Edgar Thompson from the Orlando Sentinel. Good morning, Edgar. How are you?
I'm good, Shane. We were just talking about getting new golf clubs. So I have a question before we get going on Gators, and it's kind of semi-Gators. Bob Stoops is going to the XFL.
He's been there. He coached last time they had it.
Oh, I didn't realize. I know pay attention to it.
Yeah, and Scotty Spurrier was his coach, tight ends coach back in those days. I guess what was it, 3 years ago when they played? And then Scotty just left, I believe, University of Arizona to go back to be his tight ends coach. The Rock is behind that whole league. And they have some tie-ins with the NFL now, so hopefully it'll work out. We'll see.
Orlando's getting a team I saw on our website.
Yeah, my high school teammate Terrell Buckley is their head coach.
Oh, Terrell Buckley was your high school teammate?
Mm-hmm.
I used to love that.
He coached for Mullen. Well, he coached college ball for 15 years or so. Yeah. He was with Lane up at Ole Miss the last couple of years, had enough of that and got out. He had enough of dealing with the NIL for 1 year. He said, I don't want to mess with it. So before we jump into the Gators, Joseph says, I'm not a golf fan, and I will admit I don't know the ins and outs of everything, but the PGA giving all that money to charity instead of paying out the players is crap. Kind of fishy, in my opinion. Someone must be needing tax write-offs or something. Cut the charity crap and pay the guys. I don't blame people for going where the money is. They've been doing that for years. That's just what the PGA Tour is about.
Yeah, that's their.
It's no different. The NFL gives a ton of money to charity as well. It just I get so irritated with this damn what you call it, the Tour 54. I call it. It's a gimmicky charity golf event.
The live golf thing is, as we talked about, really going to dilute fields. Mm-hmm. And this past week, like Ted Purdy was playing. Yeah, I mean, come on. they got to figure out a way to get younger players, infuse the PGA Tour with some of those younger talented players, because they're going to end up going to live. We were talking about this before on here. If they're not getting playing opportunities at the PGA Tour, because that's going to be part of their thing. Stars, and then the underbelt, the back end of the fields might be, some up and coming guys. Like I say, use Fred Biondi. I have no idea what his future holds, but a kid like that, does he want to go play Corn Ferry and lose money potentially? And if the Live is going to give him 5 playing opportunities, and he's making $120,000 no matter what he does. So yeah, it's a money thing. But I tell you, in terms of the charity, I mean, I understand that, but it's like that is the culture of the tour, and they've been doing great things in the community for years. And they show up in these cities like Orlando and places, and just have such an impact that way. And I'm not a huge charity guy, shamefully, I have to admit, but people that do that, I respect.
All right, Edgar, let's talk. You were up in Atlanta for SEC Media Days all week. Saw you on Paul Feinbaum's show. Did you say anything that people were going to be upset about?
I don't know. Paul's always trying to get me to. It's one reason I don't think I'm on quite as much anymore, because I don't want to just, go for the jugular. Paul's great though, and hopefully I came across all right. I tell you, there's TV. You get on TV, and it's just like deer in the headlights. You feel like, because you just it's not your comfort zone.
Right.
There's people that do that. They make it look awfully easy. No, I didn't say anything, I don't think. I mean, we talked about Billy. I praised him, as I have on here, for the way he handled himself. Typical Billy, came out, just laid it out very clearly and coherently and step by step what his plan is, and answer, and was very thankful about the opportunity. I mean, he grew up, like he said, 2 hours from there. And I thought it was great what he said at the beginning. He's like, when our dad, who's obviously his mentor idol, who passed, tragically of ALS at age 60, several years back, used to drop us off places, the 3 boys. He was the oldest of 3 sons. He said, remember your last name and make it proud, basically. I mean, that's a powerful thing, man. I mean, this guy is genuine and real, man. We'll see what the results are, but there is no BS factor with this guy.
No, he's sharp as anybody I've ever been around. I tell people that all the time. That may not translate into wins this year, but it will down the road. Edgar, Andy has a question for you on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melton Law. Which will be the tougher game, Kentucky at home or Tennessee and Knoxville?
Oof. I think Tennessee and Knoxville. I mean, Tennessee's offense went from, I think they were saying 108th to 7th. Josh Heupel, man, he's a good offensive coach. You being an offensive guy, you see the game well. I mean, played quarterback for a dozen plus years in the NFL. You know the game. What do you think of them? I mean, they looked terrible in the Swamp last year, 38-14. In fact, I asked him about that game and why it was the turning point of their season. Because think about that, Shane. They lose here in the Swamp, 38-14. Gators look really good. I mean, they looked good as the game went on. It wasn't like Emory had 4 touchdown passes, and then the wheels came off from then on. And Tennessee, meanwhile, got traction and is now one of the trendy picks, right? So they're picked ahead of the Gators, in fact. But what do you think of Heupel as an offensive coach? I mean, plus
I think he's very good. I will say this. One thing about that offense they run, it's very, very simple. They don't have a whole lot of plays. They have a couple of different formations, but the tempo is what causes people problems. It's great if you're making first downs, but if you go 3 and out like that, you put your awful defense in a bind. So I think Hendon Hooker, I can't remember if Hendon Hooker was the quarterback here or the Joe Milton guy was playing when they played us, but I watched Joe Milton at Michigan. I watched him a couple of games before they came to the Swamp. He was horrible. And that was the turning point for Tennessee football, is when they benched him and put Hendon Hooker in. So we'll see. Kentucky's going to be tough. I have a hard time buying into the Kentucky thing because it seems like this time of the year, everybody's talking about it every year. Doring's picked Kentucky to beat Georgia. I wanted to get to
Kentucky to beat Georgia?
He did. He picked Kentucky to beat Georgia in Lexington, but it's not until like November something, which if I could see him picking them, I told JC this, Georgia's got a few question marks. We know their roster's loaded, but they did lose a lot of good players. If Kentucky was playing them early in the year, I could see that, but I don't see it late in the year at all. So the Gators, by you media boys, were picked 4th in the SEC East. Every time I see that, Edgar, that is so hard for me to swallow. But we went 2-6 last year in the league.
Worst record since I think 87.
I guess my biggest thing is, so many Gator fans have seen the potential and think AR has a chance to be a special player. We all do. Do the media guys think that? Because I feel like if they thought he was going to be a pretty good player, they wouldn't have us 4th in the league.
I mean, I think it still doesn't mean that I think they don't have other holes. I mean, who are the playmakers around him? Is Ricky Pearsall that good? And I'm not saying he's not good, but is he transcendent? Is he going to elevate to a number 1 receiver, a playmaker? Guy has 7 touchdowns in 2 years. I mean, it's not like, oh my God, crazy stats. I mean, he seems like he's going to be a nice piece. Is Justin Shorter ready to take the next step? It's stuff we've talked about on this show. Is Trent Whittemore going to not get injured? He's been injured twice now. Is Dejon Reynolds going to take? I mean, there's a lot of buzz about him. Xavier Henderson, is he going to take a step? A few years back, you and I talked. I remember this. I interviewed you. I don't even think I used these quotes, but we were talking about Mullen and Gonzalez and all that. And you were saying you felt like they were reloading at receiver. Do you remember your feeling that these guys were going to be really good players and they just haven't panned out quite yet? So we'll see. I just don't know. And who's going to be around him? Can he do it all? And I talked to Steve Spurrier about Anthony. He's really high on Anthony. In fact, I wrote a short story on it. But you know what he said? I would not run that kid more than 8 to 12 times a game. This is a change of pace at most. Yeah. He's going to have to make his hay in the pocket, throwing the football, moving the pocket, whatever, throwing it. You just can't run him and expect him to stay healthy.
Well, I think you can run him, but he's got to be smart as a player of how to protect himself. I mean, Lamar Jackson takes punishment. I mean, he could take punishment from the best players in the world who are trained killers, basically, but he protects himself when he runs. If Anthony would do that and not try to run over people, hurdle people, just get down, there's nothing wrong with running him. So we'll see. Rick has a comment on Facebook Live. He says, Doring's T-shirts are so tight they're blocking blood circulation to his brain when he picks Kentucky.
Yeah, he's put together. He likes to show. I'll tell you, one who has the tightest shirt is Tebow. Tebow, man.
Who wears the tightest shirt, Doring or Tebow?
Tebow is so jacked, man. It's unreal. I saw him. He walked up, shook me. I've known Tim since he was since he got here, freshman. I covered some of his high school playoff games. So he walked up, hello, sir, how you doing? I said, I tell you, Tim, you look like you're in better shape than you were as a player. I mean, he is just jacked.
So what size T-shirt do you think he wears?
He shops at the boys department. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He needs to wear just a little bit bigger T-shirt. Chris Doring Mortgage. They do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. Speaking with Edgar Thompson from the Orlando Sentinel. Edgar, we have one guy on the preseason All-SEC team transfer, Osiris Torrance. To me, that says a lot there. You talked about holes on this football team. We all know, we're all waiting to see. Offense is not my concern. It's my concern, and I talk about it pretty much every day on this show when somebody brings something up, is the front seven on defense. It's been the problem. People want to pick on the secondary. We've got dudes playing in the National Football League out of that secondary, okay? They're good. But the front seven has to do their part for this team to have any chance of winning 7 or 8 games, in my opinion.
I totally agree with you. I think the interior line, I'm not sure where the answers are there. Javon Dexter needs to take a step, big step. Brenton Cox and who's drawing flies from him. There's going to be a lot of focus on him. He's talking about the sack record. Well, you can't do it in
Wait a second. A sack record in a career or in a year?
Season.
What is it?
13, Alex Brown, 1999.
Has he even come half of that?
8.5 last year. He came on strongly at the end of the year, but yeah. Hey, look, the guy's explosive, man. His first step's ridiculous. He needs to set the edge, though, is the thing that he hasn't done well for a while now. I mean, the A&M game, I keep going back to 2020 A&M. I mean, that guy, Travion Williams, is running. They just ran at him all game, right? Remember the second half?
Well, that's what I would do, because I don't think he's physical enough at the point of attack if you run right at him. But Alex Brown has 13.5 sacks. 13 sacks, and that was in how many games?
Probably 12. It was 99. But they didn't count the bowl either. Don't forget. So 11 games.
Right.
Because the bowl stats didn't start counting until about 02-ish. I think Ernest Graham, it's a year when he went over 1,000. He did it in the bowl game. But no, but I'll tell you, man, I agree with you wholeheartedly on the front seven. Look, back to Anthony Richardson for a minute. I shadowed him his whole day. Like I went in all the rooms with him and stuff. I wrote a story on it about him. Like he is just like so comfortable in his own skin, confident. He just handles himself really well for a guy who just turned 20. And to me, that's, whatever, but that's important. I mean, he has poise and confidence. And that if he can elevate that offense, I mean, I think he can do that, Shane. So don't get me wrong. I think he can raise these other guys that were playing with Emory Jones last year. We'll see what they can do with Anthony. You know what I'm saying? If Kyle Trask had been the quarterback last year, I bet you Justin Shorter and Xavier Henderson would have had pretty good years.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, like I said, I think Anthony has a chance to have a big year. I think you're going to see them do, Coach Berry talks about keeping him in the pocket. I don't know me personally, and I don't want him sitting in the pocket reading defenses. I want them to do what they did in the spring game, inside zone game, zone read, RPO, and throw the ball deep. That's all he needs to do. And then call a couple runs here and there, let him use his athleticism, but don't have him drop back having to read a bunch of stuff.
He might not have said, I don't want to mischaracterize what Coach said, because I mean, I'm sure he'd find a way to get the most out of Anthony, right?
Yes.
But he did say, I wouldn't just like run him all the time, more of a change of pace. Like you're saying, he probably would run the stuff you're saying, I would assume.
Right. But I think for this team to be really good on offense, he has to run the football. That's what he does well. But he, as a player and the leader of the team, has to understand when to get down, when to get out of bounds. Don't try to run through two guys and score a touchdown unless the game is on the line. Protect yourself. And I think he'll be all right. Joseph said, that's comical to think Cox outperforming Alex Brown. Alex Brown is one of the greatest Gators ever. Yeah, and he played in the league a long time. So I've seen some stuff that Cox has tweeted about himself on in Twitter and stuff. He just needs to let his play speak. Quit talking.
There is some truth to that, but who on the front seven intrigues you? I just don't know.
Nobody.
A lot of these guys yet, because they're just so unproven. I mean, you got Dexter, you got Cox, you got Princely, who's shown a little something. I mean, there's just no production. I think if you take all the guys other than Cox, you have I wrote it the other day. It's 6 sacks combined. So, and it's not all about sacks, but still, there just isn't a whole lot of production from guys coming back. So it's going to be interesting to see. I don't even know what this scheme is going to look like or anything. And we're not going to know a lot, Shane, because we're getting 12, 15 minutes. I was talking to Mark Long about this the other day on the podcast we did. I don't know when all this happened, but man, we used to be able to go watch the entire summer practice. It was miserable. You stood out there and just sweated like crazy. But Urban and even Mullen, we got to go watch full practices. Some Muschamp gave us a few. We get 12, 15 minutes. You got to watch, Cyrus Torrance, stretch his groin, then you got to leave. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, before we let you go, Edgar, what do you know about what's going on up in Tennessee? All the stuff that Jeremy Pruitt was doing, is that going to have any effect on their program moving forward?
I mean, the NCAA and any enforcement arm are so what's the word? Feckless? Is that the word? They have no power, man. Look at Will Wade. The guy coached for 4 seasons after they had him offering players money on tape. I mean, Bill Self's still at Kansas, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's like, so, I mean, how long is it going to take for them to figure all that out and lay down the hammer? I don't know, man. I mean, they got more problems than worrying about that. I mean, NIL's out of control and they just got issues piled upon issues, and they don't have as many people working for them as they used to.
Yeah, that's true. So, the NIL is definitely out of control. At least we think it's out of control. I still think a lot of it is just hearsay. Some of the dollar amounts that are being thrown around there. All right, Edgar, so I'm going to put you on the spot right now. Do you think the Gators finish higher than 4th in the SEC East?
Well, it's funny because South Carolina is a trendy dark horse pick and finished 5th. I wrote a story about this the other day with Shane Beamer, kind of the hook, because he was here, he was with Fulmer as a GA in 01, 2, 3. The SEC East was the best division in football then, right? And he's like, then he came back. He was with South Carolina with Spurrier for several years. Then he came back with Georgia when they played for the national title in 17. And now he's back again. So he's seen all these iterations of the East. And he's like, he thinks the East is really getting stronger again and gaining steam again for the first time. Because the East has always been the stepchild of the West. I'm not saying it's going to supplant the West, but it's not going to be just a punching bag to the West maybe this year. We'll see. Next year, probably no. Kentucky's solid. Tennessee's trending. South Carolina's on the rise. And of course, you have Georgia. So it's a tough division, man. And Missouri, do they just stink now? I mean, Drinkwitz was a good coach, and they're picked to finish 6th. So it's a pretty tough division. Then you got Clark Lee who's saying Vanderbilt's going to become the best program in college football, which was the craziest statement of last week. And are they going to be competitive at all? I don't know, but they're recruiting better than they ever have. So that's down the road. But this year alone, you have tough games pretty much every weekend. The Gators.
Yeah. Okay, got this Titanamar text from Sharon. Sharon says, what do y'all think about Kirby Smart's new contract over $100 million? And then here's everyone complaining about the NIL. Again, my thoughts are he deserves it. He's won a national title. He's done phenomenal there. But you can't compare what a coach makes to the NIL, in my opinion. The coach has so many obligations. And the NIL, I have no problem, as I've said, what the NIL is supposed to be. But I have a problem when you pay players. So to me, there's no comparison. You
mean pay recruits?
Yes, pay recruits.
Yeah, because I finally am getting to these stories. I actually interviewed Shane for a story on NIL and a few other players. And I'm doing this one today. I got to write on Steve Spurrier and Bill Carr. They were center and quarterback back in the first great Gator teams in the mid-'60s. And just their views on NIL. And they both, that's their consternation, is about the recruits getting paid. You're right. You can't, or recruits being offered inducements to come play. It's supposed to be for players who are in the program, who have made a name for themselves, whatever sport, and then he or she then capitalizes on name, image, and likeness. That's what its intention is. But yeah, I mean, look, Kirby Smart, he certainly earned one of the top salaries in college football. I just think $11.25 million, that's more than any NFL coach other than Bill Belichick, possibly Pete Carroll make.
But the difference is there's more pressure and more involved in a college coach than what the NFL
in terms of recruiting and all these things, obligations to speak and all these things.
I think college coaches should make more than those guys.
Okay, but $11.25 million, is that where we're at? I guess it's inflation, but That's a lot of cash, man. I mean, I remember when Spurrier, I was living in Albuquerque at the time. I think it was 97, got $2 million.
Yeah.
And that was like the end of Western civilization in people's mind. Oh my God, $2 million. Now you got 5, 10 coordinators making that. Strength coaches making $1 million. So that's the game now. But my God, that is a hefty salary. And he's a Jimmy Sexton guy. What do you think Jimmy Sexton's doing with Bama? He's got them on the phone now going, okay, look what Kirby's making. What are you giving Nick? Because Nick's got to make more than Kirby, right?
Yep, no doubt. Well, Edgar, appreciate it. Time has gone by too fast as usual. Have a good week, man. Hit them straight, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Shane. See you guys.
That's Edgar Thompson from the Orlando Sentinel joining our program. Hope you enjoyed today's program. Have a great day, folks, and we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, Shane.